This next section is this. We're actually going to show you how to work on your business, not in your business. There's 3 things you can write on page 130 at the bottom. There's 3 things these guys are going to talk about. They're up on the screen as well. You can check it out now. But the first is to set scheduled think time. Number 2, invest in yourself. And number 3 is to hire a life coach. What is your scheduled think time where you're working on your business? What does your scheduled think time look like to you and your style?
So after every meeting, I do some think time. Sunday evenings are big for me. I really am intentional with a habit that I have on Sunday evenings about the week ahead to get my mind thinking about what I want. That importance of my drive time in the morning. I could speak all time allotted on this one subject, but you really become a product of what you surround yourself with. Remember the people, what you read, and what you listen to.
I think when you're brand new, 5 years, for me, Saturdays, sometimes coming in on Saturdays, getting my week for, ready for the next week. I think coming in at like 6:30 in the morning on Monday is a great time to get into your office and really take the time to think about the week ahead. I go on a retreat every year. Just got back from it. I went Thursday through Sunday, so I spent a lot of time on that silent retreat. Thinking about the last year, the future, what it looks like. I think that's key. Drive time. Really when I'm working out too. I mean, I love, working out and running and lifting weights and listening to some killer music and think about, where we're headed and what the future looks like.
One is nature. I get along really, really well. And so what'll happen is about once a month, I will set up some time, and it could be during the week, it could be during the weekend, but it is no cell phone, no iPad, no nothing. I actually have a physical notebook that has nothing written on it. And I'll spend an afternoon just sitting in nature, just writing out what my thoughts are. And so usually, the thoughts start with to-dos and that type of stuff, but then eventually, the purpose is just start thinking about just life in general. Yep. And really a lot of the more pioneering things I've done in my practice have come out of those sessions where you start to think about things a little bit differently. And the reason I like pulling myself out to, I'll go to a state park, I'll go to woods and walk around, is by pulling myself out of the city, it allows me to just really get in touch a little bit more with Mother Nature, little woo-woo action, and it's pretty cool what comes out of the other side.
You have to be intentional. The theme through all this stuff is you got to be intentional. So having scheduled time that you're going to come up with thoughts and ideas is big. But the part that goes along with that maybe gets lost. I mean, some of my best ideas, concepts, what have you, ways to communicate things seem to happen to me when I'm physically, spiritually, right with my family. Things have to be in balance, right? If I haven't worked out for a while, I don't have really good brainstorming, right? If I haven't, for me, been to church in a while, I'm not quite clicking right. If things are a little rough with the wife, we're not clicking. But if things are right in all 3 of those areas, right, it allows me to have really good perspective. And what we offer our clients is perspective and context. So I don't have good perspective in my own life. Very difficult for me to have some really good ideas that I can share with people to help them create a better life for themselves.
How do you personally, with your style, differentiate between an expense and an investment?
So literally, for me as a performer, I have a knack for making everything into an investment, including guns that I bought this last year, which I'll explain in a minute because it is awesome, and yielded plenty of money. Drive my wife absolutely nuts. But for me, the way it works in my mind is if something is an expense, if literally it's money that doesn't come back to me.
That's right.
Something's an investment. When you put $1 in, you get $2 back. And so it's interesting, and I actually had to make a deal with my wife so that she, it was a good marriage deal. She said, if the CPA will agree that it is a business expense, then you can spend the money on it. If the CPA doesn't agree, then we got to talk about it. And so for me, an example would be, I built a skeet and trap shooting deck to shoot clay pigeons on my land this year. And it's not cheap stuff, it's expensive stuff. But what was interesting, based on having clients out there and doing client events out there, I got probably about 20 new clients based solely on that alone, where I had people calling in saying, hey, I hear you take your client skeet and trap shooting. Can I be your client? And I'm like, well, let me look at my calendar.
That's awesome.
Yes, you can. That works just fine. And you want to go shoot some guns too? Because, it's such a hard day at the office. So,
In simplest terms, rate of return. So as an expense, I expect none. All right. As an investment, just what Carl said, if I put money into it or time, all right, because I think that's another way to invest, not just it's all money, but I'm expecting something to come from it in simplest terms.
For me, I need to at least think and quantify the possible result. So I can't just do it and think, oh, that should work out.
Which is what Carl does.
Yeah, I need to say, and here's how it would work out. Not that I have a crystal ball, but here's a range of possibilities for me to really say, no, that's a legitimate investment.
To me, I think that much like Matt, I think that you want to invest in your business. You want to look at the rate of return is, but you want to invest in the right types of people for your organization, and that you want to pay. You get what you pay for. So I've learned, from years of, paying, subpar rates. I had subpar performance. And when you go big time and you get somebody that's really worth their weight in gold, you really want to overcompensate them.
What's the best investment for your style that a new rep can make in themselves?
Especially as a new rep. I mean, if I look back, so what was most impactful in my business early on, and not just saying this because you guys are here, but it was going to things like this, okay? I went and spent some money on going to see what Andy Schwartz does. I did that twice in 10 years. I went and saw what some other advisors do. I went to my company's annual meetings and I emulated and followed around and went to breakout sessions with people that I wanted to be like or aspired to be like and learn from.
I also think as a new rep is to take the time to find other associates in your firm that you get along well with and hire staff immediately. So like if you could make $100 an hour and I said, hey, take 15 of it and give it to somebody else, and so you could have 85 an hour, would you go to do that all day long? And everybody would say, surely, I would do that. But do it together. The old cowboys, by yourself, hire your own, hire together, work out a partnership, hire the right strengths and build and have a business plan together. And then read a lot of great books, get credentialized.
I identified early on that there are two activities. There are John Adams activities, and then there are assistant to John Adams activities. John Adams would be the financial representative. The assistant to John Adams are all the other things that go with being John Adams. And the more time I spent being John Adams during golden hours, and the less time I spent being the assistant to John Adams during golden hours, guess what happened to my income?
Went up. You became president.
Damn. All right. And so the reality of this thing is I'll just repeat what's been said already. Staff.
I will echo a little bit of what the other guys said around staff and staffing. And what you want to do is hire your one main pony. In reality, there are so many people that are phenomenal. And when I hired and I was really smart about hiring, I told that person, I said, your job is to make me obsolete. So when I touch email, you pretty much slap my wrist and be like, hey, I'm way better at email than you. Don't touch that email, Carl. You better not touch that email. And the second I touch an email, and it's still, because it was hard for me not to do it, like literally it would be like,
wow.
I get this person coming to my office and be like, you just sent an email off. Like, I'm supposed to send those emails off. I'm like, that's the type of person
That's
everybody
amazing.
wants as a staff member, but I had to communicate and say, your job is to make me obsolete.
How do you find, for your style, the right coach?
I find just by asking around, hey, who are you using? Because you kind of find out through your study groups or different meetings like this who they're using, and you maybe do a phone interview and find out if that's a fit.
It's word of mouth, but maybe thinking in terms of, am I talking to a friend of mine who's a fascinator who likes the coach, or am I talking to a energizer who likes the coach? I mean, if you're talking to someone with your style who likes the coach, there's probably a little bit more credibility there. Second thing I do with the interview is just asking the questions. So I've had a couple different coaches over the years. I've had one coach who was fantastic with accountability and, hey, did you do what you said you're going to do? And would kind of come to the meetings with an agenda ahead of time. And I pretty much just responded. And another coach is on the exact opposite end of the spectrum, where every meeting would start with, hey, Matt, what do you want to talk about today?
Yeah, what's going on?
And depending on where you're at and what you want, you should ask,
different
ask
stuff.
that question when you're talking to the coach for the first time. Hey, what's your
What's your
approach to this?
style?
Just to make sure you're not surprised by that.
I found for myself that I got introduced to coaches really from my managing partner, so that somebody that really cared about me, thought that it would be beneficial to work with somebody. And I think we need to have somebody to sound off, because when you keep doing the same things over and over again, expecting different results, that's kind of called insanity. And so we all have gifts and wounds, and frankly, in this business, in order to grow, you can't really take anybody anywhere you haven't taken yourself.
There are two types of coaches that exist out here. There's ones that we call hard power coaches and soft power coaches. And what's interesting is, Matt, you hit on that based on what you need. If you look at this, I could be the most genuine, awesome person ever, and if I've got zero grit, I'm not picking up the phone, I'm not calling people, I'm not going to be seeing people, so I could be perfectly coached and not be successful in this business. So when you look at like day number one, what do you need? You got to have some activity. And so when we look at that, the hard power coach is more like you need to just get out there and at least give yourself some at-bats. And so with that coach serves a role that is a little bit more of the survival mentality, but at certain points, that's what you need. You need to get kick in the pants to get out there, somebody to hold you accountable and hold your hand to make sure you follow through with what you said you're going to do.